Welcome, everybody. I hope you're having a lovely day so far, and hopefully it'll be made even more lovely by this slow down session. Uh, my name's Chen. I'll be emceeing along with Lee, who will be talking, hopefully doing most of the talking and not me. How's it going, Lee?
Good, Jen. Good,
Awesome.
everybody. I'm excited about this.
Awesome. Uh, I just need to do a couple of things to get the live stream going on Facebook. So I'm going to turn things over to Lee to talk a little bit, just a couple minutes, and then we'll get started with passage reading and talking about Ready, Set, Slow and all of that. So, Lee, can you entertain everyone for a couple of minutes?
I think I can do that.
Great.
I'm gonna make my view a little different so I can see everybody. There they are. Welcome, everybody. Hey, it's great to be here. A little something different. We got a book talk. Uh, you know what? I wrote a book, guys. So that's what we're talking about today. And I was thinking, I want to write a book on Qigong, but not on Qigong, where I don't have to say Qigong. And so this was my attempt at that. And it was a fun project, and it was many years in the making. And I'll tell you a little bit about it, but it was definitely many years in the making. And I was at a coffee shop. I dropped my daughter off at school today, my 4-year-old, which is always really fun because you never know what's going to happen when you show up at a preschool. And today she didn't want me to leave, so I had to draw some pictures. She needed a princess dress before I left, and once I got the princess dress on her, she was fine. Princess dress and unicorn rain boots, and we were all good. So then I went to the coffee shop and ran into a good friend of mine. And we had a nice, slow conversation. I got none of the work done that I wanted to, but I had a great morning. And now I'm here. And Chen looks like he's almost back.
Almost, not quite.
Okay.
Yeah.
So have you guys heard the title of the book? It's Ready, Set, Slow. And my friend Todd, who used to work as our videographer and video team, he was the one who came up with that title. He's very good, crafty wordsmith, because my title was The Power of Slow, which I like a lot as well. But apparently, like 18, 19 years ago, somebody else wrote a book called The Power of Slow. And so that was already in existence. So the publisher said, well, why don't we just have the book called Slow? So that was the working title. And then, a couple of my friends were like, Slow, it doesn't quite capture what this book's about. And then the morning where the title needed to be ready, he said, well, how about we start with ready? If it's got to be ready, why don't ready, set, slow? And I was all, yes, that's it. So that was a fun origin story of the title. And when you write a book, you think, how hard can it be? And writing a book's pretty hard, especially when you're not just an author and not just a writer for a living, because it's so easy to procrastinate. It's so easy to just like put on the back burner. And my literary agent friend, he was like, Lee, I know you're writing a book about slow, but there's slow and then there's too slow. And I was like, yeah. He's like, you're doing too slow. Get this book done. So we we put a little fire under my feet, and the book got finished up this year. So I was really excited about it.
All right. Thanks, Lee. I believe that we're live on Facebook now as well.
Okay, wonderful.
Are you drinking some tea today?
I'm drinking some tea today because one of the chapters is slow over tea.
Okay. You
So
you particularly like pu'er tea, I believe, which is also what I'm drinking today. Can you share a little bit about what pu'er tea is?
absolutely. Well, I mean, speaking of slow and slow tea, pu'er tea is a really slow ritualized tea. It doesn't have to be, but just the whole setup of pu'er tea makes it go slower because you have these cute little pots. This one I got in China. And now for some reason I'm a teapot collector. So I have probably about 15 to 20 of these things around my house if my children haven't broken them with their tea parties. Because we used to have tea parties when they were little, and now we're back to tea parties with Harper. And inevitably something falls off and breaks, especially the lid. I don't know if you know this, Chen, but sometimes if you break a teapot or you break the lid, there's a very specialized in Asia where they put the lids back together with like a gold.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I forget the name of it now, but it makes the teapot even more valuable. So, kind of denoting that where we get broken by life, when we put it back together, we become more valuable. So I kind of like that as a little fable.
I love that.
And then when you pour the tea, you have a teapot like this. It takes forever for the water to get out of this thing, and so you have to have a slow over tea. Even this little teapot takes a little while, and then you pour it into your little tiny cup, so that you have to do it over and over again.
You don't have a little in between
Oh,
decanter,
I do have a little in between
you
thing.
know?
I have a
Yeah.
little glass container, and one of my friends is a glassmith, so he made this little cute little container with the little design in it.
I love that.
So you gotta pour the tea, and it comes out very slowly. And so while I'm doing this whole thing, I've taken some deep breaths and I do my intentions for the day, and it gives you just an opportunity. The ritual of it gives you an opportunity to slow down and reprioritize or drop into the moment or get clear on what you want to do. And so I love that about Puer. So
Nice.
here's a toast to you
Cheers.
all for some slow moments through the day. Slow moments where the energy is high. That's the key. That's the sweet spot.
I love it. Thanks,
Now,
Lee.
now with the pu'er tea, you can ritualize it even further. And what I like to do, and you've seen me do this, perhaps some of you, but why don't we do that right now? If you have a beverage, and if you don't have a beverage, you hold a glass of tea, and you bring the teapot, or I'm sorry, your teacup or your chi cup by your heart center, and you're gonna just hold it here and take a deep breath and make a little circle. And the circle is a drawing energy in, and you're feeling like you can just draw high vibration into your heart center. And you just think about what you're grateful for. And if you notice, I'm holding the teacup with that middle finger and the pinky finger. That's your heart and pericardium. So you can get real fancy with it if you wanted to do some meridian line work. So heart, middle finger and pinky finger, and then of course your thumb, which is the lung. So gratitude and inspiration, and you just stir that in. Put your mind on a couple of things you're grateful for. I'm grateful for my daughter's princess dress that made her happy. I got a big smile. So cheers, everybody. Here's to more moments of gratitude and more slow moments interwoven through our day.
Mm, cheers to that. Whoa. Well, thanks, Lee, for that introduction to everything and
Yeah.
gratitude meditation. I'm just going to do a little bit of orientation for everyone around how today's going to go, and then I'll probably just turn things over to you for some more slow down information.
Okay.
So folks, what we're going to be doing today is very shortly here, I'll be turning things over to Lee, and he'll be reading some from the Ready, Set, Slow book and sharing some stories and insights and just some of his process for writing the book, why he wrote it, any funny stories that he might come up with, and hopefully a dad joke or two, as we may have,
As we do.
as we do. After that, we'll open things up, and I have a couple of questions prepared to ask Lee as well, and then we'll also be doing some Q&A from the chat. We're not going to be doing any video questions today, I think. We'll just be doing questions from the chat. So if you do have a question, you can put it in the chat, and eventually I'll be feeding those to Lee, and we'll be answering those. And we'll probably stay on for about an hour to an hour and a half or so. So uh, you can stay on as long as you want. We'll post the replay onto YouTube later today, and it'll also be on Facebook immediately after this live stream is done. So you can go watch it there if you want to catch the remainder of the stream, if you need to leave. If you do want to pre-order the book, I'll post a link into the chat, and it'll also be in the comments on Facebook. So you can go pre-order the book. If you do pre-order it, keep track of your receipt and send that over to us. You get some rewards through Holden QiGong. You can go check those out on the page that I'll link in the chat. You get some extra little goodies for pre-ordering one or more copies as well. So with all of that said, thank you very much for coming, everybody. Lee, I'm going to turn things over to you, and I look forward to hearing more about Ready, Set, Slow.
Okay. Thank you, Chen. And Chen, if you have questions, or if folks have questions, we can put it into the chat and have a conversation as well. So maybe I'll give a little bit of an origin story, because it's a little bit interesting. My best friend here in Santa Cruz, his name is Doug Abrams. And Doug's a really interesting guy because he's a literary agent, he's an author, and he works with thought leaders all the time around books and information. And Doug and I met because Doug wrote a book with Montauk Chia, and I was Montauk Chia's ghostwriter for many years. And so Doug saw one of Montauk Chia's books and said, "Hey, this is a great book. It's published by a very small publisher. It doesn't have a very clever title. Let's put a new title on it and republish it." And so that's what he did. And in that process, he got in touch with me as the ghostwriter. And he said, "Hey, can I interview you? I want to get the information. Montauk Chia is often hard to get a hold of." And I said, "Absolutely. Sounds fantastic." And he said, "Where do you live?" And I said, "Santa Cruz." And he said, "No way. I live in Santa Cruz as well." He's like, "Let's go get some coffee." So that was 25 years ago. And we've been best friends ever since. And so he also helped me to publish my first book, which was called 7 Minutes of Magic. And it was 7 Minutes of Magic was a morning Qigong routine and an evening Qigong routine that could be done in 7 minutes, that gave you some energy to start your day and gave you that calmness to end your day. That book kind of came about because Doug said, "You know what? I love Qigong, but I have 3 children and I'm running 2 businesses. I don't have time for a full hour routine. I need something under 10 minutes. And I started talking to him about this 7-minute idea, about how we need at least 7 minutes to create this energetic transformation. And that was the minimum amount of time. And I said, "And it works like magic." And he was like, "There it is, 7 minutes of magic." And so we published that book. I guess it was before my children were born. I was going to say it was 12 years ago, but my twins are 16 now. So it was 17 years ago, something like that. And we came out with a partner DVD with it. Well, the book sold fine, but the DVD did really well because it was on PBS. It was a pledge show on PBS. So we sold a lot more DVD titles than we did books. And so he came to me and said, "You know what? I think because you're trying to do a routine, it comes across much better in video. Why don't you do a book around maybe some more philosophy around Qigong, and how to implement that into your everyday life?" So maybe about 6 or 7 years ago, 7 years ago, he said, "Hey, I got a trip to Maui. I'm going to go meet an author over there. Do you want to come with me? I got room and board covered, and I got all these activities planned, but I'm going to go meet this author who's going to talk about habits." And so I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And so we did this writing retreat in Maui, and I was working on the book that I came up with, The 5 Paths to Inner Power. And it was a book based on the 5 elements. but made more mainstream. I was kind of thinking of it more like the Four Agreements, a book like the Four Agreements. And so I was working on this 5 paths to inner power, and he kept saying, well, reading it, he's like, there's this idea of slowing down through the whole book. And he said, why don't you focus on that? And so during that trip, all of a sudden, this power of slow concept came about. Sitting on the beach in Maui, relaxing, doing Qigong. And that's where I came up with, let's turn this book into the power of slow. And so some 6 years later, Doug's like, hey, how's that book going? I was like, well, I got a rough draft finished and a book proposal just about done. And he's like, that's when he was like, Lee, there's slow and there's too slow, and you're going too slow for this book. So let's go on another trip. And we did. We went on a trip to, we got a little place in, where were we? Cancun. And we just sat on the beach, and he was working on this book about the environment. And I just said, I'm going to finish it by the end of this week. I'm going to finish the book proposal. And I did. And I sent it off to the book publisher. And there we go. And it's interesting because with a book proposal, the book is only, let's say, halfway done, maybe not even halfway done. And then the publisher will tell you, hey, we want to add this section, we want to add this. So different publishers were coming back to me and saying, could you make the book fit more our audience? And I decided to go with Sounds True as a publisher. I really love those guys over there. They're doing good work in the world. Everything is done with such integrity that I really loved working with them. And I've worked with them before with Qigong audio books and a Qigong DVD box set that we did in 2012 or something like that. So that was my decision. There were some other publishers that had better, let's say, financial deals up front, but I just, in my gut, was like, Sounds True. We've been doing this for a long time. Let's do it. And they work with a bigger book publisher called Macmillan. And so I think my goal was to make this book more mainstream and to have it be in, airport bookstores and, in some high places on Amazon, to actually create that shift from Qigong to something other than Qigong, because people see Qigong and they don't know what it is. And in less than 2 seconds, they immediately say it's not for me. So I wanted somebody to say, okay, this is something that I could get on board with. It's more in the mindfulness type of camp, and just bringing Qigong principles into everyday life circumstances for those elevated moments throughout the day. Because slowness isn't necessarily a principle to use all the time. It's like a tool in your toolbox. A slow tool helps us to have more moments throughout the day interspersed. It also helps us to be calm, slow, and relaxed within ourselves, even if we're busy. And so in the book, I talk about how when we're busy, that we can still have this calm clarity even when we're moving fast. So there's a slowness within us, a slow mind where we're present, maybe slow breaths, even if we're, let's say, rushing to get, kids to school on time, or a work meeting or whatnot. And in the book, I talk about some funny stories of me, early days where I was teaching so many Qigong classes in Silicon Valley. I was going from like a corporate class to a class at a fitness center to a class at a Jesuit retirement community. And sometimes I would be stuck in traffic and be late to my class. And I'd be getting frustrated and be in a hurry and getting tense. And I'm like, wait a second, you're going to teach people how to relax and you're not relaxed. So you got to do some Qigong right now in the car. And so I kept, okay, got to breathe. Me getting tense and tight isn't going to make the traffic go any faster, and things like that. So there's some fun stories throughout the book. And I did pull up a little passage because it was connected to our tea ritual. So let's talk a little bit about the tea. It's called Welcome to the Mindful Tea Shop chapter. Chen, can I go right into a little passage here?
That sounds great. Go for it.
Okay. Welcome to the Mindful Tea Shop. And this is really a story about going to this great tea shop in Santa Cruz, California. It's called Hidden Peak Tea House. And for me, I've been all over the world. Whenever I go to a new city, I go and find some tea houses or see if they have a cool tea area in their Chinatown or whatnot. And I was in New York City and I went to Chinatown and I was so disappointed. There wasn't any really good pu'er or Chinese tea shops or Japanese tea shops. I was walking all through Chinatown. I could barely find any pu'er tea. And interestingly enough, as I was walking out of Chinatown, I found this really like hole in the wall place that was selling chai. And I kind of peeked my head in and I was with a friend of mine and she was like, hey, this looks really cool. Looks interesting. Everybody was sitting on the floor and doing work. And it was like playing like Indian music. And I tell you, it was the best chai I have ever had in my life. It was like spicy, a little bit sweet. And on the bottom of the chai was peanuts, like actual peanuts in the chai. I was like, wow, they really got creative with it. It was delicious. So I was like, okay, if you put your intention out there to find the best tea house, the universe sometimes gives you a surprise. And so now I found the best chai tea in New York, or probably the best chai I've had in my life, but I couldn't find any pu'er, which is different than, let's say, San Francisco. In San Francisco, the Chinatown has some great tea houses. So I thought New York would be similar. But anyways, the one in Santa Cruz is probably my favorite because when you walk in to this tea shop, you have to turn your cell phone off and and there's no laptops. Nobody's working away on cell phones talking. You're just like in the moment. You're either with your tea or you're in conversation with somebody else. So that's the opening of this chapter. So on a rare occasion, we meet someone who embodies mindfulness, who is so eminently here and now that just being around them alerts our experience of the moment, alters our experience of the moment. These people seem to radiate technicolor tranquility. They emanate profound stability. Rather than succumb to a state of constant distraction, so easy in today's world of technology and overload, they remain calm, present, and endlessly curious about the moment. I lived and worked near one of these rare individuals. He owned a tea shop, and unlike the cafes scattered on every corner, this tea shop didn't allow the use of cell phones or computers. There was no Wi-Fi, and he was proud of that. The instant you walked into the tea house, there was a palpable shift for the better in your state of mind. I walked in one morning and greeted David, the owner, with a simple, "Good morning, how are you?" He looked at me and responded with one word, "Fascinated." I smiled at his unique response. We we are asked how we are multiple times a day, but very few of us answer truthfully or mindfully. He smiled at me, turned his attention out the window toward the old birch tree outside, watching the breeze dance through the branches and the leaves for a moment. He nodded to himself. Yes, he definitely seemed fascinated. Then he held my gaze for just a second before asking me my order. This brief encounter, in this brief encounter, David had somehow managed to grasp my attention and stabilize it beneath the surface of my ordinary mind. Everything became more alive and more colorful. The light through the trees sparkled brighter, and the sound of footsteps going by was almost melodic. It was as if the window of my awareness had been wiped clean. With my cup of pu'er tea steaming gently in front of me, I drank it slowly and mindfully over many moments. So that was a little mindfulness over tea, and then it goes into a mindful tea ritual, which we just did a small version of. There you go. How did you like that, Chen?
I like that one. Yeah,
That's a good one.
add
Um,
myself to the spotlight. Do you find that you, after that particular experience with David in the tea house, do you find that those types of invitations or moments to slow down happen more frequently, or you're more kind of present to them when they happen?
yeah, absolutely. And you don't necessarily need to have somebody, like a Zen master in your presence to get a mindful moment. You could be your own Zen master, just, now when somebody asks me how I'm doing, like, how are you? I, I either take just a brief pause and like tune in and see what this moment is calling for, because you don't always need to have the deepest conversation in your life with, a stranger who's passing by. But you can have a moment where you can check in with yourself. And even if it's just I'm great, you can really sink into a connection with that person or even make some eye contact. David, whenever I ask him, I tend to also, we tend to also just say, how are you? And expect just a fine and a quick response. So whenever I ask David, how are you when I walk in? Good to see you. How are you doing? The last time I asked it, he said, you know what, Lee, that's a hard question to answer. And I was like, okay, here we go. He's like, in order for me to answer that question, I'd need to actually have to know myself, and I'm still working on who I am. So I don't really know. And I was like, nice, great, profound, David, profound.
That's great.
Yeah,
I love that. I know I've met David, I think twice, and it's always an interesting, memorable experience.
it
So
is, right?
yeah.
Yeah. But I remember during COVID, his tea shop was closed for the majority of those 2 years. And when he finally opened, I came back with Harper. I
Mm.
think Harper was maybe like 1.5 at the time. And I was excited to see David because I hadn't seen him and we're good friends, and I hadn't seen him in 2 years. And he doesn't have a cell phone, so you can't really communicate with the guy.
Yeah.
And so when I walked in, I was like, hey, and I was like, and he was like, I need to hold on, Lee. I need to talk with this new being on our planet. And he got down and he looked her in the eyes, and they had this, like, 1 and 2 year olds, they just make great eye contact, and they just like stared at each other for a while, making some funny gestures for like 3, 4 minutes. And then he finally greeted me.
Yeah.
That
That
was,
seems appropriate. Yep.
yeah,
Nice.
it was.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think my tea set's actually from David's tea house.
Yeah. He's got some great teaware there.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very
And
genuine.
the unblended brick that I'm drinking right now. So
Oh, well,
yeah,
he was just telling me that Unblended that you're drinking and Trinity that I'm drinking are the two teas that he learned how to become a tea master with.
interesting.
Yeah, they're
Cool.
like the yin and yang. Do you know which one is yin and which one is yang?
Uh, if I had to guess, unblended would be the young.
You are right.
Sweet. I'm on my way to becoming a tea master.
You are
Oh,
one step closer.
yeah. How would could someone become a slow down master?
Gosh, that's a great question, and they can, but we don't have a certification around it.
Not yet.
Slow down master. And you could you
Yeah.
can you can get specific too. You could be a qigong slow down master, you could be a tea master,
Mm.
or you could be drop into your toddler stage and just be a master there. Cause a Harper will slow down at really inappropriate times. I mean, there's Zen masters to, right to be born with. And
Yeah.
we'll be like in a crosswalk walking, and she'll let go of your hand and then lie in the street, just lie down like she's going to take a nap.
Interesting.
So
Interesting
yeah,
choice.
she does things like that. And we have to
That's
learn
good.
when we can be slow and when we can't, when it's not appropriate to be slow.
Yep. It's like there's times when you can be slow internally when you're moving fast externally, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a really good skill to have.
Mm.
You know, it's funny. I just remembered we did during a teacher training here in Santa Cruz. The
Hmm.
way that we used to do it, we every morning we'd walk from the Chi Center to the beach and do our practice at the beach. And one morning, I had our videographer with us, and he was going to do some photos and stuff at the beach with us. And we're all walking, and he said, "Guys, when you go across the street, I want you everybody to do it in cloudy hands." And so he was like in the middle of the road and he was filming, and we were all doing cloudy hands walking across the crosswalk, and there was a few cars waiting for us. And we were doing it. And he's like, just go slow, try to stay relaxed. And we're doing it, and he's filming it, and it was hilarious because nobody in the cars were like honking at us or being impatient. They were just laughing hysterically and like waving at us and thinking it was really funny. So you can do cloudy hands in a crosswalk under under certain circumstances.
Right. Next time I'm in Santa Cruz, we might have to do this together.
You know, and it doesn't work as well when you're by yourself.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, it's a little bit more unnerving, but you could try it. It's a good practice.
Nice. Somehow I don't think that anyone was that surprised to see people doing
Oh, there's
across the
Lee again
sidewalk.
doing his qigong in weird and unique places.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Nice. It's kind of leads into one of the questions that I had, which I think a lot of people, especially in the Western world, I think it feels like life is just speeding up.
Yeah.
And how could someone balance sort of that, the principles and the things that you're talking about and sharing in this book with, hey, I have all of these things to do. I have a life. I have to do taxes. I have children. There's all of these things that are taking my attention and time.
Yeah.
How how does the book or sort of what you're talking about help address that sort of dichotomy?
Yeah, and that's an important one because boy, isn't life busy, and we don't always have, these cell phones are sold and billed to us that they're going to solve all our problems and give us more time. But even with all our modern technology, people are busier than ever. The perception of busyness creates anxiety. So when we are feeling like we're busy, we're out of the moment, and in usually busyness pulls us into the future. And when we're busy, we think we can't get enough done in the allocated time that we need, or we pack things in so tightly that if one little unexpected thing goes out of place, let's say you weren't expecting traffic and you got traffic, now we get stress, and we get major stress. And unfortunately, the nervous system doesn't distinguish between, let's say, being face to face with a grizzly bear and sitting in traffic. It's pretty similar response, that this is a life-threatening circumstance and situation. And so we get anxiety, we get tension, our chest tightens up, our muscles contract. And when this happens chronically, then we have major health issues that come and stem from that. So the idea of slowness is also the idea of relaxation. And can we relax into a circumstance, and relaxation is almost always a better response than tension, tightness, and stress. Almost always. Sometimes, like face to face with a grizzly bear, or walking in a dark alley, or you hear a noise in your house and you think there might be an intruder. Sometimes that alertness of stress is really good under, those kinds of moments. But 95% of the time, our life isn't, being threatened, probably 99% of the time. So relaxation is a better response. Slowness induces relaxation and tells the nervous system, hey, it's okay. We're not in danger. So we can use slow moments. And like many people, I have a lot on my plate, with toddlers and teenagers, and running a business and traveling and teaching. So I really feel that I it's almost mandatory for me to put all these techniques into practice, because when I'm slower, I'm more efficient. it seems weird. It's counterintuitive because we want to get a lot done, but if you go slower at strategic times, you're more efficient because we're not frantic, we're not scattered. We can really delineate our priorities and accomplish a lot more during the day. So there's another book that I was, in my research, I was doing a lot of research around this concept of slow. And there's two things that are emerging. One, slow productivity, and there's a few books around that. Slow productivity is a book, but it's for business people, talking about like the idea of multitasking and going quickly is counterproductive. And then there's also a big movement called the slow food revolution. And that's coming out of Europe, where people are coming back to slow eating and eating with intention, and even the whole way in which we're farming it mindfully. And it's helping people tremendously with their health and their wellness. And so I think if there's some books coming out about it, it is in the collective consciousness. And there's some
Mhm.
wonderful ways in which this can help us in all aspects of our life. Because when we get a busy mind, even if there's not a whole lot to do, the mind can get really busy and start to ramp up in its thinking and its speed. And usually that creates internal stress. So even if there's no stress in our moment or in our circumstance, we can fabricate and create this stress within us by having this busy mind. So the book really starts with the slow mind, and then the slow body, and then slow relationships, how we can slow down in our interactions, and what does that do to the energy. And everything comes back to energy. What is it doing to our energy, either our energy circumstance in our bodies, or what is it doing to the energy in our relational energy? And when somebody in your space is frantic and sped up and anxious, we start to feel it. And I have some, uh, friends and family members that can get really amped up and frantic. And when I see this happening, my response, instead of tightening or getting stressed out myself, I immediately start to breathe slower. And I was talking to somebody about this interaction we had, and we were all at dinner, and somebody was getting really frantic and scattered and talking to the waitress and doing this, and somebody sitting next to me was like, "Oh my God, I'm feeling tightness in my chest," and they were getting stressed out, and then I could hear them like sighing and rolling their eyes, and I was like, afterwards, I was like, sometimes this can be a little bell, like, "Hey, it's time to practice now. Here's practice time." Instead of going into a habituated pattern stress response, let those life frustrations be like a Zen gong, just like ding. Now's the time to practice a slow concept, where either I take a slow breath or I bring my mind into the moment. I take my attention away from that frantic circumstance, and I feel like I just going to put my mind on my feet touching the floor, and a slow breath. And then I calm in my system. And what tends to happen is the other person will calm down as well.
Yeah. You're sort of holding the tuning fork, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think in psychology, it's called pacing. You
Mm.
pace somebody, you like connect with them, and then you bring them into your frequency.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
it. This is feels like a very timely conversation as we're going into the holiday season.
Yeah,
And
that is, right?
yeah, we're,
Definitely.
lots of people will see family, and I think one of my when I was growing up, my mom would take my brothers and I to see Amachi, the hugging guru.
Oh my God, I've seen her.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
what a beautiful mystic she is.
yeah. She I remember even I think when I was 12, her listening to a talk of hers, and she said, if you think that you're enlightened, go spend a week with your family.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great one.
Uh,
What a
as
great
we're
quote.
As we're all going into the holiday season, is there an
Yeah.
exercise that you feel like you could share from the book that some people might be able to take with them into the holidays, as the book's not out right now, so no one can really
Yeah, right.
everything.
And that is good. And I think what we were just talking about is very helpful. The other thing in the holidays is we tend to eat a lot more.
Mm.
And there's a lot more, let's say, things in our vicinity that aren't usually in our diet necessarily. People making food, uh, the dips, chips, sweets are all over the place. So even if we're eating different things, if you eat slower, your metabolism is going to work better. So my recommendation as you go into the holidays is even even if we're just snacking, just eat slower and you won't eat as much and you'll be more mindful, and what you do eat, your body will process better. So, and you also, when you eat slower, the interesting thing is, we can say, step back for a second. Why are we eating? And you're eating to nourish this body, and we're eating to gather energy for the body. That's the true purpose. But we as modern people are eating for taste and for socializing, which is great. So the intention is to nourish. When you slow down your digestion and your metabolism starting in the mouth, helps the body to turn that food into energy. Also, for the pure pleasure of taste, which is absolutely fine to eat for taste. If you slow down, you're going to enjoy it more. And modern food companies are designed to hack your brain, because crunchy and the way they make like chips and crunch and the combination of sweet and spicy, or like I see my children and they're just like, when there's gummy bears or something gummy and chewy, gummy worms, they're just like, I gotta have it. So that sweet and gummy and different flavors, your brain just goes like, eat as much of that stuff as possible, because we could use this to store for the winter. So when you slow down, you enjoy it, you metabolize it even better, even if it is gummy worms.
My wife loves gummy worms.
Does she? Yeah.
Yeah,
I can
it's
see
really
why.
cool.
I was always buying my kids these kind of healthier gummy bears. Are called gummy bunnies.
Hmm.
And one night after they went to sleep, I was like, "Huh, I'm going to try a pack of those gummy bunnies." And I was like, "Oh my God, these things are so good."
Great. Are they the Annie's? Are they Annie's gummy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
Yep. I think I've had those before. We always liked Annie's mac and cheese when
Oh,
there's never
yeah,
times.
yep.
So.
That's a favorite here too. And Harper woke up this morning. This was a good one, Chen. She woke up this morning and I was making her breakfast, but she was wandering around the living room, and she just had her birthday party, and people gave her like, just like almost like Halloween candy kind of things in a little bag with candies and fun little toys. And I was like, I usually will substitute those kind of candies for healthier chocolate or something like that. So she came into the kitchen and she said to me, I didn't eat the chocolate in the bag. And I was like, you didn't eat it or you did eat it? Oh, no, I didn't eat it. And I said, can I smell your breath? And she said, nah, it's okay. You don't need to smell it. She has chocolate all over. And then immediately she said, it's okay if you eat chocolate in the morning. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. I only had a little bit. So
Your Taoist master's teaching. She's teaching you.
she's teaching me, she's telling me like it is.
Yeah,
Okay, yes,
for
yes,
sure.
my little master.
That's great. Well, what someone asked in chat earlier if you ever use any of your slow down principles in parenting with your daughters, whether or not they know it.
Oh, all the time, and they don't know it. Because sometimes in slowing down is a do less to accomplish more. And
Mm.
you learn this because if you interfere, because just imagine three teenage daughters, and there's very like it's very rare in my house that people are squabbling or fighting, or anybody's that at least the kids aren't rarely upset with me. if I interfere with them on little things, for example, the majority of the squabbles come in my house from somebody borrowing somebody else's stuff. And it
Mm.
could be makeup, it could be a jacket, a dress, a pants. Somebody comes out in the morning and there's like, that's my sweatshirt. You didn't say you didn't ask me if you could wear it. Can I wear it? Is the follow up. And then if it's a no, then it's like, God, and then the squabbles ensue. So I used to get in the way of that. I'd be like, hey, like, is there a nicer way you could say that? And then one time I found myself where I was just trying to like negotiate a piece between the squabble of who's wearing what stuff. And then all of a sudden they all three were like turned on me. And they were
Oh,
like, yeah. And all of a sudden I was like, wait a second. How did this happen? So now I just let them work it out themselves. And then somebody's feelings are hurt. And then later I come up to them and say, how are you feeling, honey? How did that make you feel? And like, I was really frustrated because I let them do this and that. Then I'll go to the other person, away from the confrontation. And I'll say, hey, do you think, it sounds like she let you borrow something and now she wants, do you think you could be a little kinder to your sister? And then all of a sudden it's an, okay, you can borrow it. And then peace ensues. So slowing down also is all in the moments, and I talk about this in the relationship chapter, that just to take the urgency out of confrontation.
mm.
It doesn't always have to be fixed immediately, nor do you have to, whenever we're frustrated, do we need to react right away. It's
Yeah.
almost always better to take either a breath or two, and usually more. Usually take 15 minutes at minimum
Mhm.
before responding, reacting, getting involved in whatever little confrontation or even big confrontation, especially in bigger confrontation, to do something else first, get yourself into a better, more resource state. And that usually is about 15 minutes. And when our nervous system isn't hijacked. So that slowness can be so helpful, because when you respond from a frustrated or agitated state, it's going to take a lot longer to solve the issue. And you'll add a lot more agitated energy into the mix of the confrontation, even when you're quote unquote in the right.
Yeah, totally. That took me a long time to learn as a
Oh,
younger person in relationships. I
yeah.
always felt like something would come up and then I had to fix it right away.
Yes.
And once I realized that the relationship was secure, I don't need to fix it right now and
Hmm.
just take a step back. We'll get
Yeah.
past that.
Yeah,
So,
we don't even have to respond. Sometimes people come at us and like we did something that hurt somebody's feelings and we didn't know about it. And I catch myself when I'm being reactive.
mm,
This happened just the other night. Somebody said something to my daughter. It wasn't about me. Somebody said something to my daughter that really hurt her feelings, and it wasn't appropriate what he said to her, because I was like, why? You're a 50-year-old man. Why are you commenting on a 14-year-old's appearance?
yeah.
And she was visibly agitated. So I said, I saw it all happen. And then she got mad at me. She said, why didn't you stick up for me? And so I was like, oh, okay. In the moment, so I told her, I said, okay, what would sticking up for you look like?
Mm,
And she told me. And I said, well, I'm going to go do that right now. So I came in and I told the person who hurt her feelings, made this comment about her appearance. And I said, hey, that wasn't appropriate. And that really hurt her feelings. And he said, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Let me go apologize to her.
yeah.
So he went to her room, knocked on the door and said, hey, I want to apologize. And she said, you know what? I'm not ready for an apology right now, and I'll let you know when I feel better. And I
Wow.
was like, wow, 14-year-old, like knowing how to like, not just take an apology just to, so he kind of had to sit with it. And then it was a couple hours later and she said, oh, I'm ready if you want to apologize. And he said, sorry. And she said, okay, I forgive you. And then that was it.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
great.
It was a nice, sequence where that I saw unfolding where everybody was involved. And you know what? Everybody learned a little something.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's some high level of awareness to say I'm not ready for an apology.
And she said,
That's
I'm not ready. No, my feelings are hurt. And if she, I think she said later when I came in and talked to her, she said, if I let him apologize now, it's not going to be real.
mm, hmm.
So I was like, good for you. Hold
Yeah.
your ground. Yeah, and you don't need to accept an apology if you don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Perfect. That it leads into one of the questions that I wanted to ask, which I think a lot of people here know you as the Qigong guy. And my understanding, and when I was reading through the book, is that the book isn't just focused on Qigong,
yeah.
and it has a lot broader, a lot of a broader scope. And someone just asked in chat if the book still focuses on the five elements and you still work
Mhm.
in the five elements,
Yeah.
or is it, do you feel like it's broader than just the traditional Chinese medicine five
Right, right.
that
Yeah,
you
and then you're right. It is broader and it
hmm.
is more life. And I kind of steered away from the five elements because I still want to do that book. So I've got some next working titles like I really like the five paths to inner power, which is based
Mm,
on the five elements, but not the elements. Not we're not saying, the five elements book. So I really, what I'm really passionate about is bringing qigong into mainstream and having people feel that this ancient practice can be for me, and there's lots to offer.
mhm,
And like I said before, it's not the only tool in the toolbox, but it should be a one that we use on a daily basis. And I feel like people don't use it very frequently.
mm,
And how it can help, because again, there's a lot of counterintuitive things about slowing down. We feel like we won't get what we need to get done, and we won't accomplish, and we'll be late, or we'll, whatever it is. And there's so much research now that's showing that that's not the case, that slowing down, you get there faster. You
awesome.
get the result you want more efficiently. And so I take different things. And one of the chapters that is not in the book, because Sounds True didn't want it in the book, was, for example, a chapter on slow weightlifting. If you lift weights slowly, you don't have to lift weights as long. So you
Mhm,
actually save a lot of time, and you only have to do 2 workouts a week to get the same results as a 4 workout week. So it's really interesting. I use that as an example because the result you want is to get in shape, and to go slower, you spend less time and you get a better result, and you get injured less too. So there's this way in which the slowness concept can really be utilized for efficiency. And that's not the reason necessarily to go slow, because slowing down gives you a moment to be in the moment and to enjoy it. Like we were talking about with slow eating, it's like, oh yeah, I really, if I'm going to eat a gummy bear, or if I'm going to eat, a bite of avocado, whatever it is we're eating, whether it's healthy or quote unquote unhealthy, enjoy it, slow down. And again, your body processes it in a better way. So I think there's that concept that I want to take the slowness of Qigong. Like, why do we, I kept getting questioned, why do we move our body slowly? And there's very good reason. When you move slowly, you drop into the moment. When you move slowly, you can cultivate energy in a much better way. And so what if we took that same principle into and overlaid it into a different concept, whether it's weightlifting, eating, breathing. And now there's so much research around this concept that gives us a lot of evidence-based support. So this book really takes Qigong principles into life. There is Qigong in it. There's a whole section on slow movement and the benefits of slow movement. There's a whole body section with breath and movement and eating and things like that, and it makes it really accessible. And then there's also this, again, slow mind, these little tips or tidbits, like we did our slow tea ritual. There's little kind of box cutouts through the book where it's going to be the fast myth and the slow reality. Like the myth of going fast in this particular concept, and then the slow reality and why it's better to go slow. So we kind of just like keep adjusting our perception and bring reminders throughout the book and help people to just integrate it into their daily life. There's our practice, like we're going to go to a qigong class. I'm going to do my meditation, and then all of a sudden there's our life. And if we can create those bridges in between those two, and that's what I feel like this book is much more of that bridge into life.
That's great. I love that, the fast myth and the slow reality.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that was a good little cutout.
Nice.
And sometimes when I think people flip through books, it can just, those kinds of things jump out at us.
Yeah, definitely. So uh, if someone were to take away one thing from the book after reading it, what is it? What's sort of the core message? What would you want people to be walking away with or taking away from?
Um, God, there's so many. I mean, I think the title says it all, like strategically slowing down. And
Hmm.
just, if you do something slower, whether, for example, I was walking from a shop to my car, and I just said, well, I'm going to just walk half the pace. And I noticed so many more things in that walk. It probably took me 3 more minutes, but by the time I got to the car, I was delighted. I was like, I had that kind of, David attitude. I was just like fascinated. Like I could actually hear the birds. I could see, this beautiful tree in this parking lot that was giant and probably been there for 100 years or 200 years. And it had this, really cool spirally pattern. And if I was walking quickly, I wouldn't have noticed it. So this idea of strategic slowing down at moments through the day,
Hmm.
where it feels appropriate, is the takeaway of the book.
I love that. Yeah, well, it's reminded me of one of the things that I like to do is take a different route to the normal places that I like to go.
Hmm.
It's just, even if it takes a couple minutes longer, just doing something different keeps me more present and aware of what's around instead of just going into autopilot and going through the same place, the
Yeah,
same route.
that is so important. That's such a good one. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that too, because then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I've never been on this street before. I
Yeah.
just did that in Santa Cruz. And the street is called New Street. It's very small. And I
Yeah.
was like walking, and it was like gorgeous trees. It's right near downtown. And it was like this little oasis in the middle of like a bit of a chaotic downtown area.
Hmm. I love that.
Yeah.
One of the questions that came from chat earlier is what's the difference and how do you tell the difference between slowing down and just procrastinating?
That's a great one. I saw that. Because, one is useful, the other is counterproductive. And there's a fine tuning of it and intentionality behind it. So I think intentionality is important, because when we slow down, we're we're intentional about getting something done.
Mm.
When we're procrastinating, we're not doing it. We might not be doing it at all. Attitude is important. Attitude is important. We're slowing down, but elevating. So, like, our mind is clearer and sharper, and actually, our emotional energy rises. And whatever we're doing, there's a little bit more enjoyment to it. So, the slowing down imbued with focus and presence, and then also infused with a higher heart space is really the difference. So it's the difference between not doing it and doing it. Like, let's say housework. We can all procrastinate on housework or work. And both apply. And like, okay, I don't want to do the dishes, so I'm going to procrastinate. But you can do the dishes slowly. And how will you make it fun? Like, for example, can we put on some music? Sometimes I say, kids, you got to clean the kitchen. What's going to make it more fun? Let's put on some music. So they put on some music, and then they're doing it with more enthusiasm, or it's more fun to do it. So I think slowing down does that as well. For me, like when I do the dishes, either music or I put on like a documentary that I'm interested in or a sports game. And then I do it slowly and, periodically. Maybe I'll do a little qigong in between the dishes. I'll do some deep breathing. And then by the time I'm finished, I was like, that was enjoyable. So you can gamify slowness and make it more enjoyable. And I think that is the point of it. Make it more enjoyable, make it, make yourself more productive. Because if your attitude is like, oh, gotta do this again, um, or you start looking at, hey, I've done more, like the kids sometimes like, I did this part of the kitchen, you got to do that part of the kitchen. And they negotiate the dishes. And sometimes it's like comes down to one thing that they put on different sides. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, no, let's make it fun. And how can you do more than the other person? So, I mean, I think the slowness is an attitude as
Yeah,
well as it is a pace.
totally. It's almost like if I think I would use what you're talking about in a way if I'm catching myself procrastinating doing something, I can invite myself to slow down and inquire why I might be procrastinating and open up a whole new discussion or inquiry inside of myself.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is really good. That is such a inquiry is such a great tool to use. And in the slow mind chapter and section, we have some Zen inquiry meditations that are really profound, and they help us to get out of our head in a really powerful way.
Hmm. That's great. That's I think one of the unique things about this particular book is that it's not just philosophy. You've included exercises in a lot of the chapters. And I know we've been
Yeah.
recording some of those, so there's the video accompaniments for the ones that it makes sense.
Yeah.
But is there sort of, I guess, an inspiration? Why make it practical?
I know, right? And I think that's a good point, and that's another point that the reason I liked working with Sounds True is because they let me put links into every exercise. So I'll describe the exercise in the book, and then there's a link at the end of the chapter. If you want to actually watch it, you just type it in or go to that link, and you get a whole page of every single exercise we did in video format, whether it was a meditation or movement, a partner exercise. We did an accompany video of that. So I think it's a really nice bonus. And for people that are more visual in their learning styles, this makes it a great companion. Um, that said, Chen, I have forgotten your question.
I think it wasn't a very well phrased question.
Oh yeah, you were saying about
Like,
why make it practical.
yeah, which I don't
Um,
think was the best. I just want to clarify, we didn't record videos for every single exercise because not all of them make sense to have a video accompaniment, just for everyone listening. We filmed exercises for the ones that really made sense to have a guided meditation or an exercise. Not all of them. Some of them are like do a journaling exercise or write a list for yourself. Those ones we didn't. So,
Yeah, and or take a sip of tea. We didn't do the tea
yeah.
exercise. Um, yeah, exactly. Strategically scattered little presents through the book.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think the practicality of it, like can we implement what we're talking about into life? And that was a big thrust of the book is implementation,
Yeah.
not just you know, theoretical ideas and concepts, which can be great, but I love putting things into practice and giving simple tools to put into practice because that's what it's all about is that embodiment. And that's kind of my thing is to embody an intention or embody a movement, embodied meditation. Let's put
Mhm.
it into action and let's do it today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And can I ask another question from chat then? And
Yeah, please.
apart from the exercise train for a moment. So Gloria asked earlier if the idea of slowing down slowness, Qigong can potentially help with the aging process, which I think in her particular case, she was saying there might be some accompanying sadness as she's getting older.
Yeah, great. And this is interesting because in Qigong, they don't count your life by years. They count it by how many breaths you've taken. And so when you slow down your breathing, you're going to live longer. Now, that's all well and good. It's a nice little kind of pithy saying, but is it true? And apparently, when you breathe slower, you get all kinds of physiological benefit. And it is one of the best anti-aging practices. When you go slower, for example, you are in a better place in your nervous system. And stress can be one of the worst things that we can do in terms of speeding up aging because it can create so many health risks or problems. So the slowness of it really takes us out of stress and into that into an anti-aging place within our physiology. So you could just breathe slower and you're going to get some wonderful benefits. Now, if you breathe slow and move your body slowly, you're going to clear stress and circulate energy. And so these are all anti-aging practices. Absolutely.
Yeah,
And most definitely.
I love that. I think there was some research done on the ideal pacing for breath, and they came up with the ideal number of breaths per minute. And I think it was something like 7 breaths a minute. And most people are breathing very short and shallow breaths,
Right.
which increases anxiety and doesn't help. Uh, yeah,
Yeah. And I think from James Nestor's book, the ideal breath is 5.5 seconds on the
there you go.
inhale and 5.5 on the exhale, which means it's about 5 breaths a minute. Something
Perfect.
like that. But when I
Yeah.
further explored that with him, he said, "Well, it's that's a base a guideline because some people, if you try to breathe that slowly, it does put you into stress because you don't have the respiratory capacity yet.
Hmm.
So some people, it's going to be 4 seconds inhale, 4 seconds exhale, but it's a slow breath, and that's
Yeah.
the ideal breath. So if you can just periodically through the day, just stop, pause, and breathe slower, you give your system a reset."
Hmm. Yeah. I love that. It's what do they call it? The 5 by 5 by 5 breath. I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what the
five.
exercises
That's
do.
the box breathing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. I was working with someone who helps people with public speaking anxiety, and that was one of her techniques that she was
Mm.
people with is to count your breaths, count to 5 on the
Hmm.
inhale, count to 5 on the exhale.
Boy, I was doing that in Switzerland this last trip I was on because
Yeah.
I was speaking in front of 8,000 people as opposed to my normal camera or
Yeah.
50 people. So 8,000, all of a sudden I felt my nerves go stage, and I was like breathing, I was shaking, I did some slow movement with some slow breathing, and then by the time they introduced me, I was like in a calm but excited place.
Hmm. You were doing the pacing for the entire audience then.
I was. I was. Yeah. And I love what I do because I could just get up on stage and teach a qigong exercise and that calms you down.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
So if you want to get over public speaking anxiety, you can become a Qigong teacher. And then every time
A
you're
good one.
in front
Yeah.
of people, you
Okay,
just
guys, we're going to start with a qigong exercise.
self-soothe.
Yeah, it is.
That's great. Nice. Um, I mean, I'm just going through some of the questions that we've gotten from chat over on Facebook as well. I think we've answered quite a lot of them actually
Yeah.
just through
Oh,
chatting
time
about
flies
things.
when you're slowing down.
Is that
That's
yeah,
our
I
new
think
one.
that sort of relates to if you get stressed about losing time, sometimes it seems like with everything speeding up, it's harder and harder to stay present, and it's sort of like, oh, where did the time go? It's just slipped away, which can, I know for myself, it's created some anxiety from time to time.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Uh,
and it seems like we could use the slowing down to stay present and fully absorb the moment rather than getting pulled out of it into, oh, I'm losing this time or losing this moment.
Mm.
So when you
Yeah,
think,
and it's interesting when we start to, feel the relativity of time, like as we get older, time seems to speed up or go quicker.
yeah,
And so to have more time, you slow down and you have more, not only is the perception that we have more time, you have more enjoyable moments every day. And I feel like sometimes my goal in my intention setting in the morning is today I would like to have and create more moments where I feel connected to the people I love, connected to nature, connected to my purpose, connected to myself. And that requires a slowness.
hmm, I love that intention. That relates to one of the other questions that I had, which I'd be curious if you could share some of the kind of common misconceptions that people might have about slowing down. I think you talked about it a little bit earlier, um, but it sounds like we could circle back to that at this moment. And what are some of the common misconceptions that people have about slowing down, and how does this book challenge those ideas?
The common misconception, yeah, and I think that's a great question always to keep iterating and coming back to, and it's good for us to just have that in the back of our mind, like just remembering that when we slow down, it shifts us into a calm, relaxed place in our nervous system. Being calm in your nervous system means that you're going to have more energy and better health. Already those are great things. Like, how do we shift from fight or flight, sympathetic mode into parasympathetic, rest and digest, self-regulate mode? How do we create that shift? You can't really just think your way out of it. You can't really just think yourself into relaxation. Time will help the nervous system to shift, but the thinking mind can bring us back into a triggered state over and over and over again. So to get out of a stress response, you need to do something in and through your body. And it could be as simple as a slow breath. So whenever you breathe slowly, like guys, just try a 5-second inhale and a 5-second exhale right now, and you'll feel a shift with one breath, right? And then all of a sudden you're just like reset. Now, when we reset, it's healthier for us. So we got the health benefits, and there's many, many health benefits. Efficiency benefits, we become more efficient by going slower because we're clearer. Also, when we're kind of on this one pace, like this busy, fast-paced overdrive, it creates a lot of tension in our body and it creates a lot of scattered energy. So often people multitask, they don't actually get any one thing done well, even though you might get a lot of things started or partway done. Um, and then we talked about the relational energy too, because when we slow down, we can move through challenges with much more efficiency, and the energy of discord won't linger. So there's many benefits to your mind, your emotions, your physiology, and then your relationships. So your personal cultivation of energy is going to benefit, and your interpersonal connections benefit.
That's great. Thanks, Lee. I think we're winding down on questions. We've got
Yeah, I
through a
saw
couple
something from
minutes.
Kim Chen, and maybe we can bring this into a strategy, but she was saying, can you send us a little love letter with my signature so we can put it in the book if like they're giving gifts. So I think because the book isn't coming out till after the holidays, I think we were going to do something around I forget what we were talking about, but I think that's a great idea.
Sending out a love letter.
Yeah, with my signature. So if you give it as a gift, because we're not going to be, a lot of people won't be in person to get these signatures, but I think there's something, if they do the order form, through us, there was me signing some of these books, right?
That's yeah. So here, let's go over it really quick. So
You guys are seeing Chen. This is how Chen and I workshop things behind the scenes.
if you pre-order one copy today and send us your receipt. It doesn't matter where you pre-order from. Our support team will get back to you and give you early access through page 20, which is basically the introduction, the full introduction to the book. If you get 2 copies, we have a little private Facebook group set up where Lee's recording some videos and posting some more passages. He's reading some passages in the group, and we're just sharing it exclusively into there. And I've been helping Lee get together a meditation and Qigong music playlist. So we'll be sharing that pretty soon. We've got some good stuff in there. So some of Lee's favorite music for practicing and slowing down. And if you get 5 copies, Lee recorded, and you'll get all of the other stuff that I'm mentioning. And Lee recorded a 45-minute interview with Doug Abrams, the author of the Book of Joy. Maybe you can share about that in a moment, Lee.
Yeah.
And if you get 10 copies, Lee will record a personal thank you note and send you a personal video saying thank you, because 10's a lot. Thank you very much. And 50 copies, we actually have had someone get 50 copies. We'll send you a personalized and signed copy of the book, and you get a 30-minute one-on-one session with Lee. And all of these levels, it's all explained on the page. We're doing some giveaways as well on the day of publication, and some of the rewards include signed copies of the book. We have 25 of those available. So we're doing a giveaway in January on the publication day, where we'll do something similar to this, and we'll go through and draw a bunch of winners and send those out to people. Any of the people that have pre-ordered and validated their purchase with us. So that's a way you can get a physical and signed copy of the book. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Facebook group name is not a public group, it's a private group. So you're not going to be able to find it unless you order, unless our support team sends you the link. So Lee, could you share what's the interview that you did with Doug Abrams?
Let's see, the interview with Doug Abrams, we just sat and had a chat, and it was really fun and funny, and Doug's a great guy, and we just kind of talked about the story behind how this book came about, a little bit about the concept of slow. He kind of chimed in a lot about the authors that he's worked with, because he's worked with the Dalai Lama and Bishop Tutu and Jane Goodall and Richard Branson and folks like that. And so he was just chiming in on some of the whys behind slow. And he was like, actually, the science behind this, when I worked with this neuroscientist, and his research shows that slowing down, blah 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 blah. And he gave a lot of like really great additional information that I didn't even know of, and insights into this concept.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
It was fun.
That's great. That's 5 books. Joyce is asking you how many books for the Doug Abrams interview. That's 5. And again, it doesn't matter where you pre-order from, just send us some kind of proof of purchase. We are not directly selling it. It's going through Amazon or bookshop.org or Audible. It sounds like you can get the audiobook version. Sounds True has it available. Barnes and Noble has it available. So doesn't matter where you pre-order from, just somewhere, and then send us some kind of proof of purchase, and we'll distribute rewards accordingly. So anything else? I think we're starting to wrap up. Anything that you would like to share before we close things down, Lee?
No, thanks guys for being here. Love it. And we're on the mission to just spread this work and healing energy. And I think the more outlets we can go, the better the world can be. Slowing down, energy work, breath work, high vibes, loving kindness. It's all there. And I think that's kind of my mission. So it feels really good that people are here, showing up, excited, and I appreciate you all so much. I've heard from folks, and just about how the work has impacted their lives, and that just inspires me so much. Much love to you all, and thank you for being here, and more to come.
Thanks, Lee. And thank you everyone for coming today, and thank you for your support. All of the pre-orders will maybe get the book into the New York Times bestsellers list, which would be really, really cool, but
Mhm.
we'll see. Um, that would be a fun thing to see the power of slow in that list. So all of the pre-orders help count, basically help us try and achieve that, which would be really, really cool. So thanks everybody. We're gonna do another one of these on the day that the book publishes, January 21st. Stay tuned for more information on that. We'll post the replay of this session onto YouTube, and it's available on Facebook right now, or it'll be as soon as we stop streaming and then Facebook processes or whatever it needs to do. So thank you all very much. We appreciate you. And remember to slow down. We need a slogan there, Lee, or like a saying. What's the,
Yeah, we do. Let's come up with that, Chen.
okay, we can workshop it. Well, thank
Uh,
you very much, everyone. Any final
Thank you,
words,
Jen,
Lee?
for hosting. And yeah, thanks everybody for being here. That was fun.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
guys.
See you soon. See you, Lee. All right, I'm gonna post the link into the chat one more time. Yeah, if you would like to pre-order the book, there's the link in the chat. Um, you can see all the rewards and things there, and we appreciate you all very much. Thank you. See you soon. Bye, Lee.
Bye, Chen. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.